Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Tonight, we are going to introduce ourselves. My name is Blake Reimert, and I am the outreach coordinator for the Myrina Foundation. And I have a very special guest with me, our co founder and CEO, Lee Johnson.
Hello.
Welcome, Lee. Great. We're going to
Thank
be
you.
talking about what Myrina is. This is our introduction to our audience of what our foundation is, what we do. And I wanted to start off by reading our mission statement.
Cool.
Our mission in Myrina is to be able to give therapeutic and life skill tools towards long-term recovery for those who are ready to change their lives. We believe with a chronic illness such as addiction, achieving long-term recovery needs ongoing, long-term care and support along with education to facilitate one to change their life. And we are committed to providing that for everyone from any walk of life. I just absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start this conversation. I want you to talk to me a little bit about being one of the first pioneers in online counseling. All right. So, Lee, where did the idea for Myrina come from? What was the inspiration?
Well, the inspiration honestly came from the fact that Jale and I originally courted. We met face to face, but then we courted online, talking to each other over communications platform online because I lived in America and she lived in Europe. And
I
so
see.
it wasn't exactly easy. So,
Very nice. And I know for our audience, Jaleh is our COO and co-founder of Myrina
yes.
Foundation. And we are going to be doing a several part series where we introduce Jaleh and we introduce Lee and we talk a little bit about their background. Today we wanted to talk mostly about what Myrina is
Right.
so that you guys have that foundation. So what does the name Myrina mean?
So Myrina is she's the queen of the Amazons, according to Greek writings, and so she's Myrina is also Jale's nickname. And so, so uh, strong female, um, heavy in leadership, heavy in life design, right?
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense, and it actually always has. Because
Awesome.
originally, like in 2008, it was Myrina then too.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the vision for Myrina.
The vision, oh my gosh, the vision is just to help as many people recover from the crappy parts of life as possible.
So my understanding is that although Myrina provides addiction services with licensed clinicians or
Yes.
will, um, I know Myrina is just getting off the ground now, and we're going to talk a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
that later on in this segment. And hearing a little bit about your vision, it sounds like you're trying to change the narrative in how addiction is perceived and talked about, removing some
Oh,
of the stigmas and the
yeah.
barriers.
I mean, really, absolutely. Um, so one of the most strange parts of addiction, in my experience, is that you end up surrounding yourself with people who support you in your addiction. And there's a lot to address with it. I mean, if you want to actually sustain a recovery, there's a lot to change. And it takes a long time. And it like not everybody is ready in the beginning. They're ready to stop,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not really ready to recover because I think probably 100% of people who first enter recovery, they're like, oh, if I knew it was going to be like this, I wouldn't have done it, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sorry, I curse. So,
This is real talk, people.
so,
Real talk.
so if I bend your ear, sorry.
So research does show that typically what insurance companies will allow 28-day state or stay in
Per year.
treatment
Yeah.
or 6 to 8 visits outpatient.
Yes, most of the time, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the research behind 18 months.
No, okay. So there's been a lot of research from multiple scientists. in multiple venues, in multiple countries and cultures. Um, and they all come around to pretty much the same idea. And that is that if you're only giving somebody about a month to change, you might be able to change for a little while, but being able to sustain that for a long period of time, it's really not enough
Mm-hmm.
unless you're giving them continuous support,
Mm-hmm.
and that continuous support is the really hard part. A lot of times AA is what people use, or NA or GA or whatever, right? The A's.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they do a pretty decent job of it, but the anonymity becomes a problem after a while, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because the insistence on anonymity is kind of the secret holding is kind of a dynamic of addiction itself. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like you're holding on to a little piece of the addiction in order to maintain recovery, which kind of seems a little backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm one of those people that I'm a counselor that actually advocates for people to come out, you know, and talk about it openly. Say, look, yeah, I have issues. Yeah, I can't drink that. Not because I don't want to drink it, because if I do drink it, you really won't like me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've chosen a long time ago that I won't drink it anymore.
Sure, sure. And I think that's huge. I think that anonymity in early recovery can get you so far.
It's
But
important. It's really important to be able to talk about the stuff that you need to talk about and it not go anywhere. Okay, I get it. It's totally necessary in the
mm-hmm.
beginnings. The thing is it becomes a hindrance
Sure. Sure.
after. If you want to be in long-term recovery, it's a hindrance because you need to explain certain things to certain people. And if you insist on being anonymous for the rest of your life, you're going
Well,
to have a
and
hard
it
time.
makes it difficult to be of service to others
Right.
if you're
Yeah.
anonymous as well. So I think, and looking at that 18 months, I think there's an understanding there that you can get sober, or whatever, you can stop doing whatever your addiction is,
Yeah.
but learning those life skills. And I think it's important to talk about Myrina being able to provide those. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the limitations and barriers to addiction services that fuels the idea behind Myrina.
So counseling is expensive, right? And if you really want to enter into recovery, you're talking about a long-term contract with somebody that you're going to be paying a lot of cash to. And most people who are entering addiction recovery, they don't have cash.
Mm-hmm.
Their family might have cash unless they've used up all of their cash too. But you know, this whole thing of having to pay for your addiction therapy has always been a sticking point for me. And I think that we're going to talk more about that later on. But yeah, it's having to front the money that you don't have, and that's one of the reasons why you're seeking help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, usually most addicts, they will hold on to their job for the longest period of time. Everything else will go because that's the thing that's paying for their addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time they really get down in the deeps with it, usually they're either lost their job or about to lose their job, and they're trying to find a way to not have that happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But either way, they're probably all of their money is already accounted for,
Mm-hmm.
and so to throw I don't know, $150 bill per month or per week on top of somebody,
Right. Right.
that's a big thing, right?
Sure. Sure.
So
And I think although 12-step programs are wildly successful
they
and
can,
can
yeah,
be, there's a difference between receiving treatment from a licensed clinician
yes,
with that education and experience
yeah, yeah,
versus a co-partner in crime,
yeah,
for lack of a better term.
yeah, and storytelling,
Yeah,
a constant storytelling, yeah.
yeah. Tell me about that.
So if you ever attend an AA meeting, they're usually a bunch of brand new in treatment people who get up and just like talk about the stupid, insane stuff that they did that got them where they. The thing is that how much how much service are you doing to somebody who is a year in recovery if you're still talking about the crap that you did to get into recovery?
Right, right.
You
So you
know?
need like some kind of personalized treatment program
Yeah.
that works, because not everybody in recovery is the same, right? We're
Right.
not all recovering from the same disease. Well,
No.
we have the same disease. We choose our different modality, I guess. And so,
Well, and just because I like to drink wine and they like to drink whiskey doesn't mean that our treatment protocol is going to be the same.
mhm, right.
They're both alcohol, right? And an alcoholic is an alcoholic is an alcoholic, they say, and that's not true. A human being is a human being, and another human being is another human being.
Hmm.
And you know, one of the things that I kind of get on is best practices. Best practices, they worked for somebody or for a few people,
Hmm.
but they don't always work for everybody. And I have in the past really focused on what are the best practices, what are the things that are helping us the best right now to help the most people. I get it. But when we're doing it on an individual basis, which we're going to have group therapy too, but most of it is going to be on an individual basis. When you're talking to an individual, their story and their life and their thought processes are unique,
Hmm.
you know, and so you have to go and you have to do the things that are going to help that individual, not the things that help that other individual so well that you
Hmm.
wrote a paper about it. And yeah, best practices, okay, it's a good starting point.
Hmm.
I get it. But it's not, I don't think that it's a very good practice to only focus on doing the best practices because I see it as they were best for that individual.
Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like Myrina's goal is to provide individualized treatment
Yes.
with individual therapy, family therapy, group sessions,
Yes.
education, life skills,
Yes.
personal growth for an extended period of time that research has found effective,
Yes.
18 months or longer,
18 months or longer, yeah.
with removing some of the barriers such as cost or dealing with the insurance companies.
Right.
So I know that Myrina overseas was a for-profit company,
Yes.
and then you moved back to the United States and you decided to do kind of a different aspect. So this isn't your first rodeo. You've
No.
provided online counseling services in addiction
Yeah, for
recovery
almost 10
before.
years, yeah.
You pioneered a platform for confidentiality, and we're going to talk about that
Yeah.
in our next episode,
Right.
Because I find that fascinating on the tech side of it.
Yeah, because the way that all came together was the craziest thing I think I'd ever seen.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting story, and I think it's important, and it kind of talks about how we got where we are.
But it doesn't talk about the functionality of what Myrina is trying to do.
Right,
So
right.
it's an in-depth like storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah, and then so we talked a little bit about the different types of addiction that Myrina will be serving. Let's talk about our clientele. Who are the people we are trying to reach?
All of them. It's that's just all of them. Everybody. Um, uh, if you have an issue that you're trying to recover from, if you have an addiction that you're trying to clean yourself up from and get your life put back together, and you don't have the money, or if you have the money and you just want to talk to somebody who's going to be there for you, like not at your beck and call, but there for you whenever when you need them. Yeah, that's who we want to help. Everybody that we can.
Awesome.
It's as simple as that.
And so I know with addictions of all sorts, tell me, you have this theory, I guess, for lack of a better word, but switching seats on the Titanic. What does that mean?
Switching seats on Titanic. Well, it's pretty simple. It doesn't matter what class you were on the Titanic, right? It doesn't matter if you were up in the dining room or if you were down in the bowels of the ship, right? If you're all the way up at the alcoholism level, or if you're at the narcotics level, or if you're like the inhalants level, or you're at the gambling level, whatever seat you happen to be sitting in, they all went down.
Yes.
And so so one of the things that folks kind of do in addiction is that they will find something else, like, oh, I want to stop drinking. Okay, fine, stop drinking. So that they start doing things, they start doing the same mental work, the mentality of the drinking alcohol with something else. And that is switching seats on the Titanic,
Mm-hmm.
And one of the classic ones is like an alcoholic will start going to AA. They go to 30 meetings in 30 days and they end up going to 60 meetings in 30 days, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, they're going to like 2 or 3 meetings every day for 2 years. And it's like, are you getting any better?
So
Or
it
have
really
you
boils
just
down.
switched to driving yourself into the ground
Right.
with only going to AA meetings?
Right. And so it kind of it boils down to that addictive thinking
Yeah.
and that process
Hmm.
and needing to treat that at its core so you're not switching
Yeah.
from one. I
Yeah.
see. I see.
Yeah. Prevent the switching the addiction.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit about clientele that we hope to serve. What about our staff and employees?
Oh, I can be a little bit tough to work for because I'm extremely ethical. Um, and I know exactly what ethics is. Okay, it's not to be ethical isn't always legal, and legal isn't always ethical, right? But doing the right thing for the right reason at the right time is something that was beat into my head as a young person, as a child. I can't let somebody who has a question mark hanging over their head. I can't do it. I can't. I've everybody who works for me, I do background checks on as much as I possibly can. I go to licensing bodies
Mm-hmm.
and I query the licensing body to find out, hey, how's this person been? How's this person's record? Have they had any complaints against them? Have they had any malpractice complaints against them? Have they had anything going on at all? Anything questionable, right? I want to know. When I was doing the original Myrina, I had somebody who came back with a positive in the background check, and it was
Mm.
somebody that I knew,
Oh no.
and I was like, you're not gonna work for me.
There's a lot of benefits to being employed or working with Myrina, such as
Yeah,
clinicians making livable wages, avoiding
absolutely.
burnout, those types
Yeah,
of things.
yeah. So like I have on occasion worked too much, um, and um, it's it's pretty damaging to do that. Okay, I have worked for a couple of. I've worked for a facility that didn't have the ability to pay a living wage to all of their workers, and then got pissed when their workers didn't come to work for them because they needed to pay their rent and the other place was paying their rent.
Sure.
You know, and I I used to ask, why are you upset at them? If you're not going to pay them enough to pay their rent, why are you pissed at them that they're working for somebody else?
Right. Right.
So you can depend on ethics for you can depend on work values and things like that for so long, but really when it comes down to it, if you're not supplying your employees with what they need, then you're not helping them.
Well, and then they're not better equipped or able
No,
to
because they're
really
tired.
give their clients their all,
They're
right?
tired.
Yeah,
And it's rotten to work more than one job.
sure,
It is.
sure.
It's horrible. Nobody wants to do it.
And especially in this industry, because we can't help but deal with the secondary trauma ourselves, right? Because we're
Yeah.
we're we're working with people in crisis.
Right.
We're trying to help them change their life. And so if we don't have if our cup isn't full, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's one of the amazing benefits of being involved in the Myrina Foundation is not only that, but possibly in the future scholarships for clinicians and being able to complete clinical hours
Right.
and things like that. And
Yeah,
so,
so that's one of the things that we want to do on the back end
mhm,
is that we're going to be employing clinical supervisors and the such so that we can have people providing services online and being supervised at the same time, and being able to grow more counselors
oh, that's
because
amazing.
there's not enough.
No, there isn't.
There is not enough.
And I know that you saw some concerning things when you came back to the United States from living
Yeah.
and working abroad. There was some things that concerned you about, um, particularly addiction services. Tell me about that.
Well, as in most things in life, when things are going really good, things are going really good, right? But then when things turn and they start going poorly and you don't recognize it right away, then the situation gets exponentially worse. It doesn't get worse linearly, right? It doesn't get a little bit worse every day. It gets twice as bad every day.
Mm-hmm.
And with the whole opioid epidemic, that
Mm-hmm.
actually that whole thing, it began when I went to Europe. And in Europe they really didn't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In Europe they had other issues. But in here in the States, they had it's terrible epidemic with opioids, and it was mainly fueled by the drug companies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that whole thing was allowed. I mean, something wasn't done about it early enough, and then the problem is so bad that you can't keep up with it, right? And so the only thing that you can do is just keep plugging, just keep plugging, just keep plugging, just keep plugging, and do everything that you can do. The good thing about a thing like Myrina is that we'll be able to serve. One counselor will be able to serve 6 people a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so over a week, you know, that's 40 people assisted in a week. And so, you know, and because it's an online communications platform, right? Then we can build as many copies of that platform. Yeah, I'd love to have 1,000 counselors. That'd be fabulous. I'd
Mm-hmm.
be busy as anything. I'd be going nuts, but it's fine. I'll go nuts. I don't mind. But the thing is that we as a company have to be able to pay those counselors,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So that's where our need for funding comes in, because I'm not going to open a platform if I don't have enough money to pay the counselors that I have for a full year.
Right.
I need to be able to I have to know that I have their wages in hand for a full year.
Right. And so with Myrina just getting off the ground,
Yeah.
um, when are you anticipating being full on online, ready to go, accepting clients?
Um, Absolutely within 12 months from now. So by the end of July of next year, I absolutely want to be seeing clients online.
Up and going. So what is that going to take? I mean, you mentioned funding. Talk to me about some of the challenges that.
Well, so from the CEO's perspective, there's a lot more to run in a business than a lot of people think. And just because it's a NGO, just because it's a nonprofit, doesn't mean it doesn't still have all of those bills. One of the things that I can do to minimize the bills is I can not have a physical location, right? So I don't have to pay the electricity and the power in 5 office buildings.
Mm-hmm,
I don't have to do all of that. And that helps everybody involved, actually, because you don't have to travel to get service from one place to another place. Saves you a ton of time, and it also saves the counselor a ton of travel money, and having to go to an office. And most counselors keep an office somewhere, and
mm-hmm,
then they have to pay rent on the office, and they have to pay staff and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to have administrative staff also, you
mm-hmm.
know, because we're going to have like administrative requirements for the state and for other states and other organizations that are going to be overseeing what we do also.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more to it. And right now, I think that what our budget is, um, in order to, well, what I think is going to be required in order to operate properly for a year is going to be about $1.5 million. That's to pay for the counselors, the administrators that are going to be necessary, um, and the administrators are going to be necessary to keep track of all of the information that the licensing bodies is going to require,
Right.
the
Right.
reports they're going to require and stuff.
And so by having Myrina in a nonprofit status and requesting donations, applying for grants,
Yeah.
that takes the burden of cost off the client.
Absolutely.
So
I really want to never ask a client for money. Okay, fine, we'll take it. But I'm not going to require it. You know, if somebody is dead broke and they want to start getting services and they have a cell phone and they find Myrina's website, okay, they come on and they book an appointment with somebody. I don't care if they're broke because my donations are paying for their therapy by paying for their therapist's time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sure. And some of the services that are offered, like such as the case management, counseling, continued education, supervision, life skills. My understanding is Myrina is also going to be offering these podcasts,
Mhm.
which are educational in purpose. And then if anyone out there wants to participate, share their story in recovery, we would love to have you. We'd love
Oh,
to
absolutely.
hear all
Yeah.
about your journey. I think that there is quite a bit of benefit, even in the drunkalog that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, because the drunkalog can be fun, right? And so, I'm okay with spending a little bit of time talking about our escapades that got us to where we wanted to be or didn't want to be.
I think
However, one of the things that I want to focus on with the recovery talks, because I think they're called recovery talks, right?
Mhm.
Is the recovery part. I really want to have folks who are willing to sit down and talk about what their recovery was like. How did it feel to not use? How did it feel to want to use, but say to yourself, no, I'm really not going to do that. I'm going to do this instead. And what were the tools that you found helpful that helped you to not use, to not act? So,
Excuse me.
uh-oh.
I tried to
It's
hold
okay.
it in for as long as I could.
I coughed a few minutes ago.